From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Dustin gives us an update on New World Screwworm with USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins. Mark tunes in as Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig discusses USMCA, and I talk about the MAHA initiative and ultra-processed foods with National Pork Producers Council Director of Food Policy, Dr. Ashley Johnson. Now let's welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, welcome into Iowa Ag Matters here on a Tuesday on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Dustin Huffman here with you, Mark Magnuson as well. And Mark, we were waiting for confirmation, and yesterday we got it in the afternoon. We'll be talking more about that later on in the program. We'll hear from U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins, but we're now up to 5 confirmed cases of the New World Screwworm in the United States. 4 of those in Texas, 1 now in New Mexico. So the plans are being put into motion, and like I said, we've got more information at iowaagnet.com as well. But again, we are now beyond just one, random case.
That is where we're at right now, Dustin. And I know it's been a wide range of animals too, in terms of the 5 that we've seen, which illustrates that it is not just something that affects cattle. I know we've been very focused on that over the last year because that is what caused the border to close with Mexico. Was we were fearful of importing cattle from Mexico because of the New World Screwworm situation there. But as we know, and as we talked about quite a bit last week at World Pork Expo, the New World Screwworm can affect any warm-blooded mammal. So that is something that we have to be, very ever present in our minds and be thinking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And of course, as we'll find out later on, it's more than just cattle that are being affected. We also have a dog and a goat involved as well. But again, we'll have more on that coming up here very shortly. We're looking at the markets. I know you're going to be talking with the folks at Comstock Investments here in just a little bit, but soybeans been back and forth here to start the day. They were lower overnight, then they opened up a little bit higher, and now going lower throughout the mid-morning. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this day plays out. A lot of outside influences, crop conditions, growing conditions. Obviously, we got the weekly crop progress report coming out yesterday and giving us some information there. Also, the fact that we are not seeing any trade, any shipments being sold to China right now. And I'm sorry, but I kind of felt like I don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of see that we only have a handshake agreement. Again, this goes back to lack of enforcement mechanisms as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at what is happening to those grains here today.
Joined today by Joe Camp of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Joe, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
We've got a split trade for the grains. We've got green for the grains, corn and wheat, but down for the soybeans. Soybean oil for the back months at least, lower along with crude oil. There's another hope generated now lately for this peace deal with Iran that's breaking the crude oil, this time back below $90 a barrel for the WTI futures, and these prospects of a broader deliquidation type effort, de-risking across the commodity space that has really gripped many commodities, the agricultural futures as well, over the last 3 weeks. That's a question for the grains, certainly. Are we done going down for the time being? Has it gotten oversold enough to the perception of traders? And are we through enough speculative liquidation itself that we could possibly have a reprieve here? We'll wonder about the things that have been negative shifting back more positive. So that would include the war and what's going on with crude oil, processing margins still firm for corn ethanol and biomass-based diesel products. And then you have the China storyline let down over the past 3 weeks, but possibly coming back to a more bullish influence to come. And the same for weather. What has been more generally favorable weather conditions that weigh on the market can, of course, change in a hurry. And I think there's still room for a summer weather market to come.
And what did you make of those flash sales we saw to unknown destinations yesterday?
It is very well an indication that we're in an environment after the price break that we've had over these last 3 weeks. We were talking about here last week, another 65 cents lower for nearby soybean futures, very quickly back below 12 and knocking on the door of support at $11. And that's a similar theme This week starting out with July corn futures as well, backing off within distance of $4 even. And these are possibly the price points at which commercial buyers, including foreign importers, including China, can start to find some value in U.S. Crops. But to have sustained value, I think the Chinese are going to need those tariffs lowered, both sides. First, our reciprocal tariffs, and then a lowering of China's tariffs against our crops. That could happen first, of course. And I know the administration is still angling towards that. But without that accomplished, that's so far what's holding up these purchases, because the tariffs that China has in place against our imports coming in are burdensome relative to what they can buy these crops from right now, for example, from South America. Those price spreads really matter, and the tariffs do too. So a lot at play here on wondering when and if China's going to be back in the market.
Was there anything to take note of in the crop conditions report?
That generally speaking, there's a favorable outlook for the start of the summer growing season for row crops, that there's still going to be a test on the winter wheat crop as the harvest picks up there, and in those same spots, those are going to be the ends that will have the concern about conditions staying too dry into the summer, that it then is going to come into effect for corn and other crops in, say, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, and so forth. You have the other end of it still, where it's been wet and soggy, cold for so long during the planting season. We're talking about the eastern corn belt up into Michigan, Ohio, these areas where we can still have an influence on the planting decisions from weather as well on the other end of the extreme. And we can see the middle, the average cases eventually being at risk of joining those ends if places stay too dry or if other places stay wet. So we've got to keep an eye on weather as always, and what will still be a long season to come. And those crop progress reports will be something to do it by.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. New World Screwworm has been a news topic we have been following for over a year, and now we get the latest update from Secretary Brooke Rollins, as now we have 5 confirmed cases here in the United States. Here is Secretary Rollins with the latest update.
USDA has continued to expand its response to New World Screwworm following a series of confirmed detections in Texas and New Mexico. What began with a single infected calf in South Texas last week has now grown to multiple confirmed cases involving cattle, a goat, and a dog believed to have recently traveled from Mexico. Federal and state animal officials have spent the past several days increasing surveillance, testing suspect cases, and establishing movement control zones around the confirmed detections. USDA says each new case triggers a response plan that includes quarantines, trapping efforts, wildlife surveillance, and outreach to livestock producers and veterinarians in the area. During a briefing Monday, U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins provided the latest update on confirmed cases and outlined the federal response effort.
On June 5th, we confirmed a second positive detection in a 30-day-old calf, also located just a few miles away in Zavala County. Yesterday, USDA confirmed 2 additional cases, one in Texas in a calf in LaSalle County and another in Lea County, New Mexico, in a dog that we are hearing has been moved up from Mexico. And today, we had an additional confirmation in a goat in Gillespie County, Texas. This morning, we received an update from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The massive facility we're building in Moore, the production production facility. We broke ground just a couple of months ago, expecting to reach in the hundreds of millions of additional sterile flies by mid next year. They have now put one of their top commanders on this as his sole project to help us combat the New World Screwworm. We are advancing our next generation tools and technologies. Last year, USDA launched our New World Screwworm Grand Challenge, investing up to $100 million in innovative solutions from the private sector to strengthen eradication efforts and expand sterile fly production. Later this week, we will begin rolling out more rapidly some of those innovations coming out week by week by week. The U.S. Livestock Insects Research Laboratory here in Kerrville are the teams that developed a novel strain for the sterile New World Screwworm that doubles production output that we will soon be deploying.
Again, USDA says the latest confirmed cases include a calf in LaSalle County, Texas, a goat in Gillespie County, Texas, and what is now considered the first New Mexico case after officials determined an infested dog initially reported in Texas actually resides in the Lea County, New Mexico area. Officials stress the detections remain relatively limited, but they continue to take the threat seriously because New World Screwworm larvae feed on living tissue, creating severe wounds that can lead to significant animal health and economic consequences if untreated. To combat the pest, USDA has deployed strike teams, mobile response trailers, diagnostic personnel, and treatment supplies to the affected areas. The agency's also increased sterile fly releases, a strategy that's been used successfully in previous eradication campaigns. Millions of sterile flies are now being released each week by both air and ground operations in and around affected regions. USDA has also activated operations at Moore Air Force Base in South Texas to support dispersal flights and is continuing to work on expanding future sterile fly production capacity. According to Secretary Rollins, new technologies and research breakthroughs could be further strengthening eradication efforts in the months ahead. Animal owners are encouraged to inspect livestock and pets regularly for unusual wounds, maggots, or signs of irritation and report suspected infestations immediately. USDA says the nation's food supply remains safe, and officials will continue providing updates as investigations and surveillance efforts move forward. For Iowa Ag Matters, I'm Dustin Huffman.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
ACM and CMA award winner, Hardy.
That's my favorite country song.
Live in concert.
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning.
August 13th, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand.
You got it good, old boy.
With special guest McCoy Moore. Hardy Live. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Hardy 2026.
Time now to run down those basis numbers for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Tuesday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, seeing a lot of volatility in those basis offerings right now. Of course, that matches up with the extreme volatility we've been seeing in the markets here. Let's run down those bids for you. ADM Burlington, 18 cents under on corn, 402. Soybeans, 28 cents under at 10.85. Cargill and Eddyville, a dime under on corn at $4.10 for the cash bid. New Co-op Algona, 31 cents under on corn, $3.89. Soybeans, 45 cents under. Cash bid, $10.68. Ag State Sheldon, 20 cents under on corn, $4 even. Soybeans, 45 cents under at $10.68. Ag State Elta, 31 cents under on corn. Cash bid, $3.89. Soybeans, 40 cents under at $10.73. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 7 cents under on corn, $4.13. Soybeans even with a cash price of $11.13. Five-Star Co-op Nashua, 30 cents under on corn, $3.90. Soybeans, 35 cents under at $10.78. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 17 cents under on corn, $4.03 for the cash bid. ADM Des Moines, a dime under on soybeans, their cash price, $11.03. New Co-op Red Oak, 24 cents under on corn, $3.96. Soybeans, 40 cents under, $10.73. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 40 cents under on corn, $3.80. Soybeans, 70 cents under, cash price, $10.43. At New Co-op Sheraton, they're 24 cents under on corn with a cash bid of $3.96. Soybeans, 40 cents under, $10.73. Waukon Feed Ranch, 49 cents under on corn, $3.71. Soybeans, 62 cents under, $10.51. New Co-op Glidden, 29 cents under on corn, $3.91 for the cash bid. Soybeans, 40 cents under, $10.73. Innovative Ag Farley, 40 cents under on corn, $3.80. Soybeans, 55 cents under, cash price $10.58. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 22 cents under on corn at $3.98. Soybeans, 25 cents under at $10.88. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevators when making sales to obtain the most recent price. With this check of your basis report on Iowa Ag Matters, I'm Dustin Huffman. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Alabama, live in concert. Friday, August 21st, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand. With special guest Exile.
Like Grandma and Grandpa.
Alabama, live.
Roll on highway, roll on along, roll on daddy till you get.
Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org.
You gotta have a fiddle in the band.
Alabama.
Here on Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, it is time now to hear Riley Smith's conversation with Dr. Ashley Johnson, Director of Food Policy with the National Pork Producers Council, as they discuss everything food-related, including some of the MAHA guidelines that are being put in place right now. And here is Riley with more.
And of course, we've been keeping a close eye on the dietary guideline situation. We've seen everything from ultra-processed foods, just making sure that pork products are correctly labeled, and also out there is like, hey, this is a nutritional product. So when it comes to those dietary guidelines, what has been the latest thing? Because last year we were talking about a lot of frustrations with the MAHA policy.
Yes. And what's really great is that the dietary guidelines were for Americans were released, and guess what? Meat is back. It's such an exciting time, actually, to see literally the pyramid flipped. So all of us that grew up with the food pyramid, meat was just this itty bitty little piece of it. Guess what? Meat is actually back on top and prominent, where we are actually supposed to prioritize protein at every single meal. And so it's an exciting time actually for Team Pork, because we already knew that we were absolutely delicious, but we also know that we're nutritious, and that is what is being spread actually through these DGAs, and so critical because the DGAs actually inform all of our federal nutrition programs.
And that's right, we've seen plenty from the National Pork Board of like promoting it in the diet as well. But then on the NPPC side of things, looking at protein being such a focus, just in general among consumers, it feels like not even with just the dietary guidelines, but almost social media trends. It's like a lot of people are eating more protein.
Yeah, and if you actually go and just go out into the world, it's protein, right? Everywhere you go, and that's a great time for us because that messaging is coming through. And especially on the policy side is we can have that critical effect of how it's implemented, because the DGAs, like I said, affect so many different programs. Biggest one that we're looking towards right now are our school meals rules, which we should actually get a rule out soon on that. And that's going to be completely changing the way that our kids eat, which is so exciting because, they need that nutrition. Absolutely critical for them. And so schools are going to actually have to have their meals and everything based off the DGAs. So we're going to start to see more meat and protein back into their diets, which is great because what we were fighting before, like you said, the frustrations for years and years, was this concept of reducing meat consumption, and also not just reducing it, but replacing it with plant-based proteins, which it's not apples to apples. And that's what's so critical, and it's something that we've had to be able to get across to policymakers to say, if you eat a pork sausage, that is something completely different than you're eating a bunch of beans, peas, and lentils, which is what we were afraid we were all going to be eating. And they're not created equal. You don't get the same nutrition from them. And it takes a lot more of those plant-based proteins to get the same nutrition. And it's not bioavailable. You don't break it down the same. So there's so many problematic issues with that. And that's been a lot of things we've been working towards. And we've been able to finally see that in the DGAs of, all that hard work, the many years of being able to have those conversations and seeing meat actually back on the plate.
And I know as well, from last year's conversations, we were talking about the Make America Healthy Again initiatives and how there was the food labeling issues with ultra-processed foods. And we're talking, of course, bacon was the big example, getting lumped under that. How has that dialogue improved since we talked even last year?
Yep. So we're still on the hunt for that because we are expecting a federal definition. They have committed to having a definition for ultra-processed foods. So there's been a lot of those conversations. But when you start to have those, you see that light bulb come on of like, wait a minute, you're telling me my bacon is going to be the same as a bag of chips? All of us know that that's not the same, especially nutritionally. And the DGAs, what we've actually been able to really highlight was this concept of nutrient dense. And it was said right there in the DGAs, that's exactly what we've been telling policymakers is a nutrient dense food such as pork and processed pork is not the same as these other processed products that have no nutritional value. And so we're getting that across. We were able to see that language come through in the DGAs. So we're very, very hopeful on the work that we've done as that definition comes out, that we're not going to get lumped in, right? Because people are starting to click like, wait a minute, I don't want my bacon in that. And so that's really exciting to see. But that is something we're still working on. The federal side, I think they're really starting to understand it. We still have work to do on states. So a lot of states are coming up with their own essentially definitions, and we've been very successful in some of those. And there's still more work to do in others. And there's also this kind of gray area when it comes to food safety and food ingredients that are being also in this conversation, ultra-processed foods. We make a great, safe product that everybody can enjoy. Let's keep it that way. We need to make sure we're protecting those food ingredients that allow us to package, make sure that our food doesn't spoil and it's safe for everybody. And so those are some of the other things that we're working towards that is part of this MAHA movement. Make sure we're not having these unintended consequences.
Absolutely. Lots of great information today for anybody who would like to stay in touch with the National Pork Producers Council. You know, as these dietary guidelines continue to evolve, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to be able to go onto our website at nppc.org. We have a lot of these issues actually up there. If you have pigs, become an investor. I think it's so critical to be that voice and to be involved because policy affects us all. And every single day, there's something new, especially in this space, that could have these huge consequences for us. And so I think it's just something so exciting right now in this time. But we still got to be vigilant and working hard to make sure that pork stays on our plates.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
A special evening with the icon.
on a downtown train,
A night of hit after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson. Joined in midday by Brandon Doherty of Total Farm Marketing. Brandon, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Yeah, kind of mixed trade here this morning. Corn up maybe a penny or so, beans down 2 to 4, wheat's up about 3 to 5. So similar pattern to yesterday. Beans still seeming to be a little bit of the anchor here. Looking at that new crop contract there on November, we are between the 100-day and 200-day moving averages. So the 100 days on top, 200 days support on the bottom. So I'm a little bit concerned that we fell below that 100-day and beans have been kind of drifting their way lower. They may continue down and test that 200-day, which is at about 1113.5. So still a ways to drop if the market wants to test that support level. Aside from that, there hasn't been a whole lot of in the way of fresh news here today. We do have a USDA report here on Thursday. Not any major changes expected, but we did see that we had the crop progress report yesterday, and corn ratings held steady at 67% good to excellent, and soybean ratings did fall 1% to 65% good to excellent.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
We've been kind of both sides of neutral here in the cattle market. However, right now I have live cattle up about 60 to $1.75. Feeder cattle are up about $2 to $2.50. So also both sides of the market there today. And then hogs are lower, down I'd say about 20 to 80 cents right now. So that hog market kind of continues to slip. We are getting very well oversold at this point there. But on the cattle side of things, there is some talk that there was more cases of the screwworm found in the U.S. So that could lead to restrictions on the movement of cattle in the southern United States, which might be why we're up a little bit today, just anticipation that supply might be reduced a little bit, at least in the short term, with the restrictions going on.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
The best way is to call us at 800-334-9779.
Brandon Doherty, Total Farm Marketing, my guest here today. Thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Alabama, live in concert. Friday, August 21st, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand.
Play me some mountain
With special guest Exile.
like Grandma and Grandpa.
Alabama, live.
Roll on highway, roll on along, roll on daddy till you get there.
Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org.
You gotta have a fiddle in the band.
Alabama.
July corn up 1 3/4 at $4.20.5. July soybeans down 2 3/4 at $11.13. July soybean meal at $303.60, up 90 cents. July soybean oil at $74.84, up 28. Chicago wheat up 5 cents at $5.88 1/4. Minneapolis wheat is up 2 pennies at $6.21. Kansas City hard red wheat up 6 1/4 at $6.36. July oats up 3 1/2 at $3.15 3/4. On the Merc, June live cattle up 53 cents at $247.05. August feeder cattle up $1.68 at $352.38. July lean hogs at $97.03, down 35. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back into the marketplace we go, and lots to get into on the livestock side of things. Joe Camp of Comstock Investments will be joining Mark Magnuson again here as we talk about what's happening in cattle and hogs, and lots to really kind of take in here with yesterday's USDA announcement.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
We've got cattle going higher. It was after a weaker finish yesterday. No 2 days the same direction lately. Even intraday, seeing these big reversals from up to down to vice versa. You have a volatility occurring as speculators do ditch long positions based on being spooked out of the market by these various headlines lately, particularly regarding screwworm. Now it would seem the count is up to 5 cases of screwworm in the U.S., not all of the bovine species, but a concern nonetheless about what comes next, both with its negative and positive points in terms of price implications, whether we have an impact on demand, other countries restricting imports of either live cattle or beef down the road. We don't see it as a food safety issue, but we can worry about that in the market. And certainly that was something that was expressing itself. On the other end, the bullish points of keeping that Mexican border closed for longer and just being yet another constraint on this cattle supply.
At the same time, Joe, I've been a little bit pleasantly surprised with the public response. There hasn't been a massive, I guess you would call it a freak out. I haven't seen people, losing their minds over this situation. It seems like they're pretty well informed on exactly what's happening with the screwworm.
That's good that we have that, and it should continue, given that we've battled this before, that we seem more equipped than ever, that we are hearing about the process and the science that goes into battling this new world screwworm. So for now, that should bode well, and it always has. Nothing's going to stop me, certainly, from eating beef here, and the rest of the storyline for the summer opening up and consumer demand, I think, well positioned to hold and get through this.
Joe Camp, head to Comstock.com for more marketing information and resources and to get in touch with the team. Joe, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great day.
Same, Mark. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
And back on Iowa Ag Matters, and one of the things that was talked about outside of New World Screwworm at the Pork Expo last week in Des Moines was USMCA, and it's up for its renewal. And Secretary of Agriculture for Iowa, Mike Naig, weighs in on that topic.
Yeah, you know what? I know you're going to get the microphone last, so I'm going to behave myself, But it's okay. Great. I'm grateful for the chance to be here, and I'm just going to help provide a couple of opening comments. And then you got a great panel here. Bob and Julie Kenny. Julie, good to see you. Chris Budens, Randy Miller, great friend, and Pat, who are going to be able to walk you through, I think, with some more detail. Several of the media, we were just together, and I made a few comments about this. And so I think some of the questions that were coming up, I think you're going to get a better, deeper dive here into some of the specifics and a little more color around the agreement. But I certainly appreciate Farmers for Free Trade for hosting this as well. It's a very important topic to be talking about here at World Pork Expo. Of course, it's very fitting that World Pork Expo is hosted in Iowa on the great Iowa State Fairgrounds, a bit of a warm-up to our Iowa State Fair. And to be able to talk about everything from animal health to productivity to stewardship and welfare and policy and demand and trade, all of those pieces really have a platform for discussion here at the World Pork Expo. Truly a premier global event. And so it's very fitting, I think, to have this discussion. And I appreciate, again, Farmers for Free Trade and Bob for moderating the panel today. So I just want to stress how critically important USMCA is for the state of Iowa. Canada and Mexico, Iowa's number one and number two trading partners. It is very clear that this is important. And that's both in the protein side, in the grain side, and biofuels, as well as equipment and all manner of things that we produce and manufacture in the state of Iowa. Bottom line, trade absolutely matters to Iowa's economy. We're second in the nation when it comes to the value of our food and ag exports, second only to California. And when you think about the size of California's economy versus ours, that's a significant, we punch above our weight when it comes to that. But it also stresses, I think, how important trade is and how much we're focused on that. Again, Canada and Mexico, Iowa's most important trading customers, billions of dollars worth of ag products to and from Canada and Mexico in 2025. Mexico alone purchased over $2.3 billion worth of Iowa ag products just last year alone. And these aren't just export markets. These are friends. These are closest, largest, most reliable customers. And there's a lot of compatibility between our economies. And certainly the North American economic bloc is one of the most valuable economic blocs in the world. Trade is critically important because we produce more than we can consume in this country. And so we are able to export those products around the world, and that helps us, especially when we're looking at value-added products that we're exporting. We're able to, protein is one of the greatest examples of that, biofuels being another one. We take commodity crops that we produce here so well, we turn them into something of higher value, and we're able to export that, capture the processing, the value add here in Iowa, in the United States, and then be able to supply customers around the world. So it's critically important. Whether that's corn, soybean, pork, beef, ethanol, DDGs, soybean meal, countless other value-added products. This is important to price support, but also to farmer income. And profitability is one of the most important things that I am hearing about when I'm traveling and talking with farmers in the state of Iowa. And there's no one thing that will solve the challenge that we face on the crop side in terms of profitability. It is everything from needing to drive down the cost of inputs, bring certainty from a policy standpoint through a farm bill, through year-round access to E15, through trade policy, but also to develop markets wherever we can, internationally, domestically, locally. We need to be fighting for those markets, and we will benefit when we can be successful there. So I just want to, again, just stress the importance of this and to make sure that we recognize the value of rules-based trade. The value of having a trade agreement means that when there are the inevitable disruptions that occur, the frictions, the things that develop, you have a framework to diffuse those differences. You have a framework to resolve those differences, and you've got a way to move forward as opposed to just squaring off and staring at each other and saying, you move first. And so I think that's one of the most important things that we can drive home. And we must be clear about what needs to be addressed, this renewal, this review that's happening. Let's be about the work of taking care of those barriers, making those changes, and then get on with the renewal. It's critically important. So we value the two-way trade that happens, actually the three-way trade that happens here, and critically important to U.S. agriculture and to Iowa agriculture as well. So we're all better when we work together. So thank you so much, and appreciate the opportunity to help kick things off.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Thanks for joining us for the Tuesday edition of Iowa Ag Matters. You can find us online and all of our daily news stories at iowaagnet.com. Join us again tomorrow for more here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.